This is the John Hallett Podcast, powered by ClearSky.Training, where we break down what actually works in real-world self-defense and why most training gets it wrong. If you're training with us in Castle Rock, Colorado, this is the thinking behind what we do at Rocky Mountain Self-Defense and Fitness. If you're an instructor or gym owner, this is where we talk about building better training and better systems. All right, let's get into this one. Strong at 60 starts here. Look, a lot of people getting older means slowing down. The best years are behind them. Pain, weakness, so stiff. I don't have enough energy. A big one, they're starting to lack confidence as they age. I don't buy it. You need to train smarter, right? You need to recover, right? Smarter. You need a little bit more recovery, not overdoing it.
Sure.
But you're not too old to become stronger, more capable, harder to kill, feel strong, especially for you men, feeling capable and feeling like you have purpose. Coming in and training in a martial art can really help you regain that purpose.
Absolutely.
You're probably not too old to train. You're just getting older and it's just getting harder. You get rusty is what I've been saying for decades now. People, I'm old. I'm like, you're just getting older. You're getting more rusty, everything else, so to speak. Most men over 50 slowly lose strength, mobility, balance, confidence, awareness, and capability. Not so much because they're aging, but because they stop challenging themselves. They stop moving, stop learning, stop pushing themselves. And little by little, things fade away. This episode is about fighting back against that. Not with fake tough guy nonsense, not with senior fitness silver sneaker BS, because for decades now, my older guys are like, I don't want a type of class like that. They just need to train smarter, and not be treated like they're old and feeble. That's, not what real training's about, no matter what age you are. Real training keeps you dangerous, capable, healthy, and more independent for a whole lot longer in your life.
It is crazy.
So bring you in, Josh. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Good. Sorry, I didn't know I wasn't on the camera yet. I was agreeing with a lot of everything you were saying there, just because I've heard it so much, and people just need to start giving up. But because of that, why do so many adults over 55 stop training or even challenging themselves, man?
Because it's like socially acceptable, slowing down is normal.
Sure.
It's just, people accept the decline instead of fighting against it. They just say, this is normal. You get old, you can't do it. And they're just stopping. They're just giving up, essentially, in my book. A lot of men hit a point where they stop identifying as athletes. Oh, I'm too old for that. They stop seeing themselves as capable and they start, avoiding discomfort, hard workouts. They're not learning new skills. They're not challenging themselves, and that's really dangerous. The body adapts to what you demand from it. If you stop demanding strength, you lose it. If you stop demanding back, you're losing it. And if you stop demanding courage, it's gone. It's just ever do any of that stuff. I was just talking to one of our, my BJJ coach, Eric, we were in training at the gym yesterday. And afterwards he was saying, I was just, his son's about 30-ish, maybe 32. I was just playing basketball with him and his friends. I felt so good. Some guy kind of, gave me a little bit of shoulder bump, knocked me down, but I felt alive. It felt great. That's the stuff you need to do. But he works out at, and he's not too old. He's 60 something. So
continue to ask your body to do things. It's really what it's all about.
It's like never stopping. Keep going. I always tell the story of an old fisherman on Nantucket Island that said, don't retire, don't stop moving. That's when you die. So it's a big thing with people, and they just kind of accept it, and you just go into more and more decline
and fade away.
And you're going to feel a whole lot healthier. You're going to feel, just the mental aspects of training versus, depression creeping in and accepting. So you get in there and you just start doing something slow and steady. I mean, that goes with our 30-year-olds that haven't done anything for 10 plus years.
Ask your body to do things. So what makes RMSDFs different for adults over like 55-ish?
Yeah, at Rocky Mountain here in Castle Rock, we want to meet people where they are. I'm constantly telling people, don't overdo it, slow and steady, keep coming back, without lowering standards or treating them like they're fragile, but everybody's just going to ramp it up slow and easy, right? You can't overdo it. That's how you hurt yourself. That I constantly tell people, you're going to put more pressure on yourself than we are as coaches. People will push themselves over trying to, prove it. You're not 20 anymore. You got to keep showing up. That's what the most important thing is for success, is just showing up.
Consistency.
We don't try to throw people into crazy chaos, right? We don't try to throw them in with somebody, a ton younger. And if we do, hey, let's train appropriately. There's no ego here. There's no fake martial arts nonsense at Rocky Mountain Self-Defense and Fitness. I feel like our older students appreciate that more. Like they're not trying to be a UFC fighter. They just want to feel better
and defend themselves.
No drill instructor type of training. There's somebody trying to prove how tough they are. And again, our older students don't. They see right through that. Type of instruction. And we try to build people up progressively. Safer movement. You get better balance. You get awareness, which is a huge thing in self-defense. You're going to increase strength. You can do that at any age, right? Just training and moving around is going to help your mobility, and confidence. Confidence is the number one thing we hear at the gym, and you're going to be learning a real world self-defense skill. And honestly, most people are capable of far more than they think. People sell themselves short constantly. It's, it's too bad. People put way too much pressure on themselves and all that type of stuff, especially as they get older. I'm going to slow down the class. You're not. It's
don't worry about it.
It's
Come
part
on
of
in.
learning. That's
Just,
what you're in a beginner, self-defense class. Like, we don't expect everybody to be high speed. Even it takes people like a year to start building a real good foundation. If you're a gym owner or instructor listening to this and you're seeing gaps in your own program or how you're teaching, you're not alone. Most schools were never shown how to build this the right way. That's exactly what we help with inside ClearSky.Training. Structure, systems, raising the standard, not just learning a technique, everything that goes into training and mentoring your students. All right, let's get back into it. Josh, what do you got for me?
So is self-defense training actually realistic for someone in their 50s, 60s, or beyond? I've heard this, and I think I know the answer, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely, because real self-defense is about awareness, right? Positioning yourself, decision-making, right? And efficient movement, not athleticism alone. That's where people, if a 20-year-old attacks you, hey, if you're working out at 60 or 70, you're going to be a whole lot better, all right, than the untrained 70-year-old. You're going to be, they picked the wrong victim because you have some skill, but you also, all right, know how to de-escalate. You're not getting into stupid, decisions. Like, I had a guy yesterday, I'm like, in a scenario training that he got into a pushing match. I'm like, did you just get into a pushing match? I'm like, what are you putting hands on that guy for? Why are you shoving him? Our older students are, way better at that because they know they're trying to de-escalate, where, some of our younger, more confident, I hate to use that word more confident, but, they're younger, they're still under this impression that, they're super strong and can take on the world. Like, why are you getting into a shoving match? You don't need to do that. And, you had a lot of better answers than getting into a shoving match with another guy. Our 50s and 60s. And again, I've said this for a long time, you know, if you're at the nursing home, who are you more likely to get attacked by, a 20-year-old or another 70-year-old? You know, I mean, hopefully you're not in the nursing home at 70.
Picking fights.
But they do happen at those nursing homes.
Yeah.
And guys get into arguments, you know, that's your demographic. That's your, you know, people that you're around. You know, that's, you know, the probability of who's going to attack you. Now, of course, somebody could break into your house and you all want to be more capable and just making smart decisions, you know, not confronting that attacker, you know, getting out of there, you know, barricading you're in, 911, all that other good stuff. But you totally can defend yourself and make decisions and learn it. You know, the movies sell, you know, self-defense about being young and explosive and athletic.
They've never done that.
You know, they've definitely used some older guys here and there, but for the most part, you know, the action movies have, you know, the guy that's jacked and the whole stereotypical person, you know, it's nonsense, you know. Smart, aware, trained 6-year-old can avoid problems younger people walk straight into.
Like youth and ego, they're a really horrible combination sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, awareness matters, boundaries, judgment, confidence, all these things matter. You know, physically being capable still matters, but you don't need to become a pro fighter. You know, people get this MMA fighter that is Axel and Leo fighting over their toy because they're little children, boys.
It's the best part of the show.
They're just too low for the camera. You know, we're not, you know, at RMSDF, we're not competition gym, right? And, you know, a lot of times you're a little bit older, you get, you know, into some sort of gym that people are going and competing. Not that you can't compete in an older age bracket, but it just depends on the demographic, you know, of your gym. That's what I like. How, you know, we've got a pretty broad, of course we have our teen and our kids programs, but, you know, for the most part, our adult program is, you know, Castle Rock demographic, you know, from 40 to, you know, late 50s and beyond. But a lot of our older guys, you know, and gals will hold back saying, I'm too old. That you just need to train smarter and slow and steady. Nobody here cares, you know, and that's where you've got to get out of your own way, and you're going to be a whole lot better if you can get out of your own way and say, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm just going slow and steady. And as I've told one of my old Green Berets that, you know, has since retired out of Castle Rock, I'm like, where are the rest of the guys your age? You know, he was in his late 70s and, you know, we would apologize for not being as strong as he was. I'm like, you're so much stronger. I mean, he was still stronger than some of our teenagers, and had better push-up technique than a lot of the, you know, guys in their 30s and 40s. But he would feel bad. I'm like, don't feel bad.
Yeah,
you're here, and where's the rest of your generation? You know, look around. You just have to start and get yourself into it.
Yeah, which this kind of also leads to a question I've had, because I started in my late 40s with you. So what happens when people start training later in life? I've felt a lot of the benefit. It's been kind of easy for me to put on muscle now, but later it's got to be tough. I mean, it just
gets later if you keep you put it off. You know, it's always going to be hard. You know, working out is not easy, and it's just going to get harder and harder. But, you know, once people start to get into it, they actually realize, like, no, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, it's the mental side of it. You know, they stop believing that they could do it, and they just say, I'm too old for that. You know, again, you know, we want to be smart and, you know, not overdo things. I'm always saying slow and steady. You know, it's going to get you there. So you just have to believe in yourself, no matter what age you are. But, you know, the older you get, it's kind of a little bit more socially acceptable to be like, well, I'm too old for that. No,
try it.
You're not, because, you know, you're going to feel a whole lot better. You know, I love watching people, you know, that, you know, walk in nervous and out of shape and unsure, you know, and 6 months later, you know, they're doing so much better. They move better, you know, their posture's improved. They're more confident, you know, they have more energy.
Yeah.
when they start doing those things. They start feeling alive again. It's, training and exercise can do a whole lot for you. And, I think it's like what I tell the little boys. I mean, you don't know how to punch. They tell me they know how to punch. I'm like, you just think you know how to punch because you're a boy. It's some built-in thing. And you don't. You need to be trained how to fight. Otherwise, you're just flailing around and think you know what you're doing. And our older guys are generally smarter. They actually listen to me a lot more than our younger demographic because they've reached that maturity level going, I don't really know how to throw a punch.
I don't know what I'm doing here. Yeah.
And they actually listen better than our younger demographic and can pick up skill and technique faster because they just have, all that life experience and that wisdom.
Yeah, it's nice to watch, man. So what would you say to someone listening who thinks they're too old to start?
Right. The longer you wait, the harder it's going to get.
Yeah.
Right. The rust is building up even more and more. Start now while you can. It's going to be easier today than, in a year from now, no matter what, you're 65. Well, you're like, oh, I'm too old. And you procrastinate to 66. It's, now you got another year that you could have been building strength. It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
If you start now, it's going to be easier than when you wait. And that's the number one thing. I have people like, well, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to
come in.
You just have to start. Mm-hmm. Nobody's getting younger. It's not magically, you reverse your age. You've got to train. It really just comes down to that. You can do it. You're either build it now or you're going to continue to lose it. That's the biggest thing. Like, you don't work out for a week. Somebody that's doing that, you realize when you come back a week or two later, because you took 2 weeks off, that, I lost some strength here.
Yeah.
I'm not as strong. I lost my cardio. It's going. We all just need to do something, and be slow and steady and be smart. You're not 20 anymore. You're not 30. You're not 40 anymore. When, every decade matters, you just have to train smarter, right? Again, you need the strength, you need balance, you need mobility, you need confidence, right? You want to be independent. You want to feel strong and capable, right? That's what we teach at Rocky Mountain Self-Defense and Fitness. Our self-defense program is going to get you all of those things. Right? It's not about becoming violent and aggressive, right? It's about staying capable so you can protect yourself, protect your spouse, right? Travel with confidence as we get older, play with your grandkids, right? Move and live and refuse to slowly fade out into weakness because society told you that's normal. No, go out strong, doing something.
Yeah.
All right. If you're in Castle Rock, Colorado and want real world fitness and self-defense training designed for adults who want to stay strong for life, check out Rocky Mountain Self-Defense and Fitness. No ego, no fluff, just smart training that helps you stay capable, confident, and harder to kill. If you want to go deeper on real world self-defense decision-making, under stress, and responsible firearms training, everything we teach lives at ClearSky.Training. ClearSky is where we break down the thinking behind self-defense, awareness, avoidance, judgment, legality, and decisive action when violence can't be avoided. If you're an instructor or a gym owner, this is where we also help you build systems, structure your training, and raise your standard. If you're in Castle Rock, Colorado and want hands-on training, that philosophy is put into practice at Rocky Mountain Self-Defense and Fitness. Thanks for listening to the John Hallett Podcast. And as always, train more, suck less.